Hey right bags, it's Jade. Today on the Ultimate Guide to Grounded, we're taking a look at the Brawny Boy bin box. Say that 10 times fast. We're going to be taking on the Wasp Queen with tips and the secrets that you need to know, as well as how to completely, utterly clear out the Brawny Boy box. Getting 4 milk molars, 2 scabs, a whole ton of raw science, lots of candies like sour and spicy, 3 new trinkets, as well as a brand new burgle chip. Let's go, the Ultimate Guide to the Brawny Boy bin box and defeating the Wasp Queen, which isn't as hard as you might think. Step 1, you're going to have to actually get into the Brawny box, and to do so, by now you should realise you need to go and kill a good few wasps and maybe take down some of the mini nests. I showed you guys in my ultimate guide to the wasps and how to basically get the armours where some of these locations are. The toolbox, the stump, here in the northeast corner there's the stump, and then you've got one on the berry bushes close to Mordok's castle, just north of the castle itself. And then one final one in the upper yard on this branch here. And the easiest one to pretty much do is the one at the back of the Java-matic, underneath the actual desk, shooting it or hitting it with a tier 3 axe or crossbow, and it should come down. Basically kill 6 of the wasps, the 3 that guard each one of these mini nests, so 2 nests, and you should get the wasp hive has been disturbed. Then all you got to do is simply sleep, and you'll see the cutscene that says the Brawny Boy box is now open to explore. Word of warning, you will now find more of the wasps in the lower part of the yards, particularly anywhere where there are flowers and the flower beds and the flooded zone all the way in the southeast. They'll generally fly quite high though, so to trigger them you have to really be going out your way to get them to attack you, and of course you will now also have more chance of being raided by wasps, so make sure you invest in some of the turrets or you've gone ahead and reinforced some of your roofs. So this is a tier 3 activity, which does mean I think you can't really go through here until you've actually got a good amount of upgraded tier 3 items. Armour wise, obviously it's always going to be up to you, but range is probably going to be one of the better things against some of these. I've gone with the moth armour set mainly because I haven't had too many uses and I want to see how good it could be against the wasps. And I've got to say I preferred it to actually the wasp armour. Destroying the 2 mini nests at least, you should have enough resources to really start crafting, and it shouldn't take too long to go around some of the others if you're missing just a few. I covered this in more detail in my ultimate wasp guide where I covered how to craft the armours and really the benefits of them versus others, so go and check that video out. But in short, I feel like the moth set was better for more damage in a quicker time. For sure there's an argument you can still go melee with something a bit more ranged like using a spear. And of course the basics that they should always have some sort of salty elemental damage on them to get the most effect. So we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to the boss fight, because that's where I noticed the big difference. But all in all, I reckon at least having upgraded level 7 or 8 armour and making sure that whatever weapon you're using, be it a crossbow, a spear or other melee weapons, are at least level 7 or 8. Yes, you can be lower if your skill's better, but that's where I found was a good comfortable limit. And if you have taken a few more extra nests down, then do make sure you go ahead and either use it to craft the wasp mount so you can do more damage against them, or go ahead and get lots of the waspidotes. The meals are also good, as these will help with the poison damage that the wasps do. Otherwise, if resources are short and you're just going in here anyway, then obviously Mithridism is also going to be a good shout to help reduce some of the poison effects from the wasps. So let's go and do the walkthrough. When you get inside, there's going to be plenty of resources like the wasp paper lying around, not to mention splinters and plenty of rust. You'll find plenty of candy as well, including sour and spicy, plus some gum too. So make sure you bring a shovel or you've got explosive arrows. It's nice and easy. When you get into the entrance, just by the wall you should find the milk molar and a sour sweet. From here there's only really one place to go, which is alongside or underneath the books, and you'll come across some more rust and some more wasp paper underneath the keyboard. This is also where you'll come across that one piece of gum. Blocking the way at the end is a glass jar, so you can only really go ahead and turn left. But there will be a way that you can connect to the rest of the box or the bin once we actually get to the top and knock down an arm that'll help us carry ourselves up across the keyboard. Just keep heading down the corridor and you'll come across the jacks, and then obviously you'll be going on the right. There'll be a small tear in the cardboard box. Make sure you go through this. Don't go in between the book and the box, as that will lead to the Black Widow, and we don't want to face that just yet. Instead we're going to take care of a couple of ticks in here and maybe some of the termites that might wander in or just outside on the opposite end. You can clearly see there's some raw science there too. So once they're dealt with, like I said, jump on top of the books and you should be able to get the raw science. So through the gap and take care of the termites. There should be a couple workers and at least one soldier, maybe two. Don't get too close to the books or run around, you don't want to aggravate any of the wasps, although they do have quite a high aggro range, as in that they don't really recognise you unless you're pretty close to them. So you can really see why assault weapons are really going to help you out. I definitely recommend bringing an assault mace. So once they're all dead, we're going to go and get ourselves one of the milk molars. Go along to the far wall again, picking up any more of the paper that's lying around. I do believe it should respawn after a good few days, so you can always come back here to get some easy stuff just on the floor maybe. Now underneath these books on the left hand side, go along the wall and you should find the milk molar. 2 milk molars to go. Keep going forward past the milk molar and you see the jar and to the right where we just fought the termites. Instead we're going to turn left, jump over this bolt, and underneath by the sides at the back of the keyboard you will find the Scab condiment jockey. Obviously pick up the rust as well. Here's what it looks like. I wouldn't say it's an amazing colour, but you do you if you like it. So you can now go ahead and jump on top of the floppy disk and we're going to go up. Inside this air vent, which is obviously a Tayz T head, you should find some more raw science, which is easy to get. Drop down, go ahead and smack the arm and it will give you a way up now from the main entrance to the BRAWNY Boy bin box, much easier and quicker. So you can go ahead and get the milk molar that's situated on top of the Tayz T by jumping pretty much from here and trying to get onto the blades on the side. But we're going to show you that a bit later on, as I think it's better to clear the whole box or from wasps before you do that. And obviously FYI you can get the 500 raw science as well. So now we're going to try and get on top of these books and you can see another mini hive and the wasps over there. So once you've got the rusty bolt underneath, jump on the pencil and jump across using your tuft. Grab the mini hive paper and inside the wormhole candy container is the shield solidifier. This is a fantastic little trinket that will really give you a lot of extra defense. I do believe it adds 200 extra defense gauge on your shields. So the easiest way to deal with wasps is to kite one of them alone onto you rather than go wading in trying to take on all 3. Obviously make sure your range class is more suitable with the right mutations, so sharpshooter. If you've got any salt trinkets, equip that as well, and I would either go for something with lots of critical hit chance, and of course the old favourites of mine, which are the meat shield and maybe some more stamina based ones like either buff lungs or maybe natural explorer. So I managed to kite one of the wasps over. It wasn't the drone, which I would try and recommend you worth getting first, as when they scream they will give sometimes a buff to any other wasps that will do extra bleed damage against you. Regular wasps can also go ahead and poison you, that's why you're going to need the waspido or mithridism mutation of course. And relatively, with the ability now to shield and do a lot more stun damage against airborne creatures, it's a lot easier to handle these guys than when they first launched a good few weeks ago. Obviously salt arrows are going to be some of the best things to be using. They've got a whole multitude of attacks, although the drone doesn't have as many as a regular wasp. You can see that it's doing its call, and if it does manage to hit you, it will then either do a poison effect or bleed damage effect. If you've got 2 of the wasps and a drone fighting you, you can see how that would stack up pretty quickly, and you can actually get 3 poison stacks up when fighting against 3 wasps. Because the flying creatures don't necessarily fly completely out of range anymore, it is a lot easier to go and just take them on with a melee weapon, like I said, with a spear, or pollen arrow shots and then finish them off with something fast moving. However, I still think range is the better way to go. You can see you don't really have to worry too much, especially with the drone. Just avoid its special shot there and you're pretty much good to go. It doesn't really do as much damage. Wasps in general have more protection against explosive and gas, so don't try thinking about blowing up with bombs or gas arrows. You could potentially use a decent club to help alongside with its stun abilities, and if especially using the Club of the Broodmother with its upgraded sleep path of the armour, you could definitely get more venom damage done also. But they are resistant to poison as well quite a lot. Absolutely, the secret is to try luring one on their own, hence why I recommend ranged. So we are making a beeline for, or should I say was line, the science pod, so that we have got an automatic save point. If we do die, we can just respawn, which is on top of this box. So hop on the back, jump on the rocket, and you should eventually be able to get up on top of the cardboard box. Obviously grabbing more paper, and then obviously go and scan anything that you might have got new. From here, this is where you can also go ahead and kite some more of the wasps to fight you on top of the box without too much danger. If you are using a crossbow, also be careful of the rough reload, the new thing that's been put in that basically stops you from firing multiple shots. It will actually make the second shot not do as much damage, so you've got to wait until it's actually disappeared. The little circle should pop up underneath your scab, and it should have the little red arrow wonky sign. And there you can see the triple shot of venom that I've actually been hit with multiple times by this wasp. With the crossbow being the best one you can get, tier 3, the reason you use this with this armor set and not the wasp set itself is because the wasp set is really also good for bows only, as it helps a lot with charge shots, and the perks around it are all about using charge shots and quick shots, which effectively mean you just hold onto your shots for like a second to really release the bow full. The crossbow doesn't have any charge shots, hence why you wouldn't really use a wasp armor set with the crossbow pretty much ever. Taking care of the last wasp, bringing it over to the box, you can then start to explore the rest of the areas, including a fight with a black widow. But first, let's carry on exploring the rest of the area and go on top of that Tayz helmet. Now we can go ahead and hit it and jump up. Now you can get on this wire here, and there is a way where you can kind of very casually, gradually just walk up here and you should be able to get on top of it. But I always forget exactly where the spot is. Big shout out to my rat bags that helped me out when I was streaming this a good month ago. Instead, you can jump sideways like this using a tuft, and you should be able to just put yourself on the edge. Then it's a case of just carefully and gently jumping sideways up. Now you will hit a kind of lip on this next one, so you do have to make sure you're a little bit to the edge, but then otherwise you should be able to get up pretty much and you're on top of the Tayz helmet to get the milk molar. From here we're going to glide down near this dustbin ball because we're going to go and get a bunch of the spicy sweets. And there's lots of various pieces of rust up here as well. Then it's back up the pencil and then onto the arm to get the 100 raw science, and then you can bash this arm again to full to make it even easier to get across. You can bash it anywhere along here and you'll be pretty much safe, just give it a good whack. If you peer into the dark on the left side of the science pod and then jump over using your tuft, you can then go ahead and pick up the next scab. No enemies on top here, just the scab and some more wasp paper. The scab is called Frosting. I quite like this one, really luminous green. So the blue dryer ball that you see in front of you, you want to get inside that, as that's where the next chip is, the forgotton chip that will unlock a brand new mutation and more. But we are also going to go ahead and cheese a black widow from here. You should just about be able to see it. Since you've brought your range class with you, then why wouldn't you try and just kill it with more ranged options, including either explosive arrows, which are doing a huge amount of damage, or just plenty of regular salt arrows. There are a few black spiderlings down there as well, so be careful for them if you do drop down to justify it with melee. It shouldn't take you too long, and then that's it, you're pretty much safe to drop down. If you did miss that though, you can just drop down from where the science pod is and land directly in it and pick up the chip. Alongside the dissection expert, which will give you more ability to get more rare parts when fighting creatures, you'll also gain the cookbook that will give you the empanada dust as well as the wasp roll, which again is also really good for protection against either dust or poison. Back to that black widow, go obviously and get any resources from it and kill the rest of the black widow spiderlings. At the back you'll find the fourth and final milk molar. More importantly, destroy the egg sac to go ahead and get the whittle whittling, which is a special trinket that will summon black widow spiderlings to fight alongside you. Pair this with mama's jeans and you become a spider summoning god. So at this point I recommend you actually go back and get a rebreather, maybe set up a outpost outside or return to base with all of your loot. Make sure you've leveled up a bit. Before doing that though, make sure you grab the last bit of raw science and you pick up the last of the omnent badges that the new one's been added, which is inside the wasp queen nest. Of course we are going to have to go and make the summon item as well so that we can fight the wasp queen. It is a bit of a leap that you'll have to jump over to get onto the wasp nest, the large one, pick up the raw science, and directly in front of the summons, that's where you'll find the skeleton with the brand new card. Health and safety will give you healing every hit that you do, and it gives quite a lot, but over time it will also take away your health. So it's really good for having really intense combat with multiple enemies or just one large enemy, as long as you can keep hitting and making sure you've got plenty of stamina. But as soon as you're out of combat, you must remove it to stop it draining your life. So as I said, go back, get a rebreather, upgrade your gear, use their milk molars, make more anti-poison stuff. So the BBQ medley doesn't need any boss parts. Instead, you'll need a bee stinger. You'll also need some of the mosquito blood sacs, 1 tiger mosquito beak, and 3 sour lump candies. And of course, just like all the other summons that you guys should know by now, you get your actual summons back if you fail. So keep going ahead and using just the one, or maybe even think about duplicating it rather than waste more resources. As far as I remember, it should maybe only cost 1,000 raw science to duplicate the BBQ medley. Chances are though, you've probably got a lot of them other resources, or you may need to just go start farming if you want to keep repeatedly trying to kill the Queen Wasp. So, bearing in mind, my armor, like I said, is upgraded to like level 7, possibly 8, and my crossbow is the same, level 7, not fully maxed out. I went and defeated it pretty much using just this method. It's got a variety of different phases and timings that she'll do certain things, but the basics are that when she's flying in the air, she's got a chance of firing her poison or projectile shot at you, and these clouds can do a huge amount of damage. Your best bet sometimes is to run directly underneath her or behind her to try and avoid some of them. She'll also screech and summon other drones and wasps to come and basically take you on. But this is what you really got to look out for. When she lands, that's your opportunity to get in as many hits as you possibly can. She'll summon the drones and the wasps depending sometimes on her damage output or how much health she's got left. So you might only get 1, sometimes you might get 2, it all just depends. So hitting her with a salty melee weapon is advised, something that can maybe stun her as well. So clubs could be good, although I still find them pretty slow. I still think it's personally better for me to use a one-handed sword weapon. And then in between that, make sure you're using a crossbow with salty arrows. I found as well that the summons that she does bring, they sometimes pretty much just die almost on their own, or they're getting caught up in something. It must be a bit of a glitch at the moment, but it only takes sometimes 1 shot, and even though they've got loads of health left, they tend to die. But absolutely, when a drone is summoned, make sure you kill that, as that can also then do the same effect that it does, which helps other attacks do more bleed damage against you. And yeah, obviously bring plenty of heals, make sure you're not rough reloading, taking time in between each shot and not really wasting any of them salt arrows. Just like a lot of the other bosses, when you get her down to a certain amount of health, she'll start taking less and less damage from your hits. She basically becomes more tankier. She's got pretty much all the same shots as a regular wasp. She can sting you, she can use a projectile, and of course she's got that more widespreading projectile spread. If you're doing this in multiplayer, then you'll get more of the summoned wasps attacking you as you fight her. By the time you get the Wasp Queen down to its lowest health, it will then start producing even more of the poison bomb attacks. You'll be hit by 3 to 5 of them barraging you when she does release it. And obviously the poison does stack, so it's crucial that you have Mithridism, and as I said, make sure you've got a few of the antidotes. You spent the 3,500 raw science on the cookbook, then you should be making the meal as well, the wasp roll, to help you with this too. Otherwise, it wasn't as hard as you might think. As I said, as long as you've got plenty of heals and you're not necessarily just wasting too much time trying to hit her with melee, really use a good ranged weapon to get them shots in. She'll go through her phases anyway where she'll land. It's nothing to do with you hitting her that she then lands, she just does it anyway. So you're always going to have a chance to get her with a melee weapon eventually. They are resistant to spicy damage, so you'll do 25% less damage, and just like the wasp as well, chopping isn't the best thing and slashing isn't the best thing, but as I said, with something fast moving, then you're still going to be doing more shots. The stun damage that you get from the clubs is still pretty much a good one, and obviously if you've got something salty, then that could also still be good. She is actually resistant to stabbing, which obviously arrows are, by 50%. But it's the salty arrows that are really doing a trick here. So if you haven't got salty arrows, then you might not really want to bother too much with range attacks, only if and when you want to just get a few pot shots in. Otherwise, dedicate that time to healing yourself, making sure you're ready to go in with max stamina or take out any of the other drones or wasps around. Seem to also be a sneaky little trick that if you don't actually damage the wasp in the first part of the fight until it gets to its next phase where it might land, it might only then summon one wasp afterwards. I reckon this will end up being patched or changed in the future, but that might be something else to consider. I never did this on purpose, but during one of my fights I definitely didn't do too much damage to it in the first phase, and yeah, she did only summon one creature. Of course, you can steal items from her. You've got a chance of getting Wasp Queen chunks, but you won't get any of the Wasp Queen wings that you can get, nor will you get any of the heads. You can only get these pieces of loot once you've killed and looted her. Her overall health is 5,000 and she's got a defense score of 10. Her stun threshold is 350. To be clear, your stun arrows, i.e. the sour arrows, only do 5 stun per hit. If you were to have something pretty fast moving like a blade or maybe even a dagger with sour equipped, then you'd be doing 15 sour damage per hit. So you'd have to hit her just over 24 times or so to really get a chance of stunning her and letting her go to the ground, if you're using a melee weapon with sour equipped. Again, goes without saying, you could use something like the salt trinket would be good. Finish off watching the fight, as I don't really want to cut it. I want to show you the complete fight where I was using ranged, or mostly ranged anyway. A variety of her attacks cause lots of statuses on you. She also applies bleed with some of her effects. She will make you take more damage as your resistance is lowered, as well as your exhaustion recovery becomes much more severe. She will also stop you from healing as much, and your perfect blocking may be stopped as well, of course alongside the poison. When you've killed her, you'll get Bardic Inspiration. This gives all of your bow and crossbow attacks a 25% chance to play a Bardic melody. This melody then gives you a buff to nearby players for 10 seconds. Now, I do believe it also gives it to you too. It'll increase either critical strike chance by 10%, you'll either get critical concerto, which does damage of all attacks by 20%, or you get the overtune, which reduces damage taken by 25%. So you've got a random chance of getting one of them buffs 25% of the time when using the Bardic Inspiration. And if you go ahead and make the helmet that you can get, the Bardic Tudor, then you can pretty much get a healing buff also randomly applied to yourself. But you do need to make sure it's upgraded down the sleep path first. It makes you neutral to wasps, so they won't attack you as long as you don't attack them, but you will be attacked by bees on sight. While wearing it, you'll also get Bardic Discouragement, which is the opposite of what you got with the mutation for killing the Wasp Queen. It does actually 3 random perks, or chance of 1 random perk out of 3 on enemies that you fight. Enemies will have the effect of either bleeding more, doing less damage, or taking more damage. And if you upgrade this down the sleep path, then it works even better with the mutation that you got from the Wasp Queen, because you'll get Healthy Harmony, which increases the healing even more. So really, the mutation from killing the wasp works very well with whatever you're using. If you're going to use a mix of this helmet plus the other wasp armor, that's good. But equally, on its own with other armor sets, could be really potentially good as well with them extra bonuses to give, and especially when exploring places where wasps are. The tier 3 bow is pretty much as strong as the crossbow, and that's really its only benefit other than reducing threat generation. So enemies, especially if playing multiplayer, will go towards other players more than you. But when you combine this bow now with the regular wasp armor, and you can see how really good it is, but equally it's still beneficial for just the regular bar Tudor helmet. But to me, for sure, the bow definitely works better with just the regular wasp armor complete. Last thing to mention with the Bard's Bow also is that with Apex Predator mutation on, you will summon some wasps to fight alongside you, but they die pretty quickly. In fact, as soon as they've hit a creature, they'll die, but they should inflict a little bit of poison damage too. Once you've defeated the Wasp Queen or some of the other bosses like the Mantis or the Broodmother, you might have unlocked a boss source. This will give you extra critical hit chance, but obviously it's very expensive as it requires the heads from the 3 fallen bosses. And of course, you'll be able to make a trophy as well as obviously a stuffed version of the Wasp Queen to do more damage or get more luck while looting. I did try a variety of different setups to take on the Wasp Queen, even using the new Bard Bow as well as the armour that she supplied, so the Bard's Tudor and 2 pieces of just regular Wasp armour, and initially it seems like it does a really good job, but that's obviously just because it does get more resistant to damage as you go longer in the fight. You are firing more faster shots, so the Bard's Bow is not a bad option to use against it. And if you've gone ahead and upgraded all of the stuff, then yeah, it's a really good viable way to keep farming and using against the Wasp Queen. I also went and used just a regular tier 2 bow, since the crossbow is not the best one to use with the Wasp armour, and wearing nothing but the pure Wasp armour, and yeah, this was probably not the way to go. You just simply aren't doing enough damage with just the tier 2 bow, so you might as well go ahead and use the crossbow if you're going to be doing that, but not the same armor set. The Wasp armor pretty much relies on that, like I said, held shot. If you upgraded it down a sleep path, you basically get a chance to refund some of your shots as well. So it can make it good if you've got a limited supply. It does also offer the air superiority if you're wearing all 3 pieces of the Wasp armour, which does an extra additional 30 stun on flying creatures. So you'd only need 12 shots to effectively stun and bring the Wasp Queen down using the full set of Wasp armour. It is relatively easy to get, like I said as well. You don't need much of the Wasp shell or the Wasp legs to go ahead and craft it. But for me, the Moth set was probably the better option. Last thing to mention is the Wasp trinket. You've got a chance of stealing it using the right perks, as well as the gum as a trinket, and that might give you an extra chance. But it's very small. Remember, it's around 1% or maybe only a bit higher, not much, if you're actually just killing the creature and looting its body. It's kind of weak sauce. All it does is gives you a 25% chance for your bow or crossbows not to use up an arrow shot, so very similar to the sleep path for the regular Wasp armour. Certainly something I wouldn't say is worth farming the Wasp Queen over anything else. Like, sure, for the candy arrows it could potentially be more beneficial, I guess, so that you're not just getting feather arrows in return after every failed shot. Remember, it does have to actually hit, I do believe, with the shot to get a chance of getting it back. For more details about Wasp, check out my Ultimate Wasp guide where I talk more about the armor set and how to deal with them, and that is pretty much it for now though. An in-depth guide to the BRAWNY Boy Bin box, as well as the Wasp Queen. Do leave a like, find it useful, and I'll see you for more Ultimate guides in Grounded very soon. Bye bye.